Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Bubble Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, it seems as if during the past week or so, some kind of a big change has occurred in the world with regard to Gaza. I mean, we've been inured almost since October of the 7th of 2023 for all the horrors and atrocities and savagery and brutality of Israel's campaign in.
All live streamed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And basically the West, and that means the United States and Europe, kind of felt uncomfortable, but still, they continued drearily invoking the mantra, Israel has a right to defend itself, and it's all Hamas's fault anyway. But something has changed during the past weeks because this famine in Gaza has really shocked many people. Famines have a tendency to do that because they could become a mass thing. It starts out with a few people dying of hunger, and suddenly it's hundreds, and suddenly it's thousands, and this is causing panic in among governments in the West, and they started issuing statements condemning Israel in quite harsh terms and demanding that Israel let food into Gaza. I mean, starving populations, that's going back to the Middle Ages. I mean, that's that barbarity, that's the kind of way of fighting wars that the West has deemed. But we've gone beyond that. Of course, the West does other things like dropping atom bombs, but that part of that starving populations, that's a very primitive form of warfare that the West has tried to go beyond. So earlier this week, we had a statement issued by 28 countries, their foreign ministers, and here we have this is the joint statement. It was on the 21st of July. And here it says, we, the signatories, have this urgent message. The suffering of civilians in Gaza has reached new depths. The Israeli government's aid delivery model is dangerous, fuels instability, deprives Gazans of human dignity. We condemn the drip feeding of aid and the inhumane killing of civilians, including children, seeking to meet their most basic needs of water and food. It is horrifying that over 800 Palestinians have been killed while seeking aid. The Israeli government's denial of essential humanitarian assistance to the civilian population is unacceptable. Israel must comply with its obligations under international humanitarian law. And then, of course, once they make this harsh statement, well, now we have to talk about Hamas. Oh yes, well, the hostages cruelly held captive by Hamas continue to suffer terribly. We condemn their continued detention and call for their immediate and unconditional release. A negotiated ceasefire offers the best hope of bringing them home and ending the agony of their families. We call on the Israeli government to immediately lift restrictions on the flow of aid and urgently enable the UN and humanitarian NGOs to do their life-saving work safely and effectively.
Well,
Again,
it's interesting they don't really address the issue of that Gaza's been under siege since
right.
2005.
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's right. That's right. Um, but the problem that they've been trying to address here is this, that Israel has had this essential blockade since March when they ended the ceasefire, and then from March to May. Then in May, they said we're not going to allow the United Nations in. We're going to have this private contractor, this Israeli-American private contractor, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, deliver aid, and this has led to this horrific calamity. This 1,000 people have been killed because people are just getting shot by live bullets, because they're just seeking food from this organization that obviously has no experience in humanitarian distribution. They've never done that. The UN has done this. The International Committee of the Red Cross have experience in doing this. Gaza Humanitarian Food Foundation has none of that, no experience of this whatsoever. That's why, they're actually protected by the Israeli forces, and then they just start shooting at the people lining up, or that were desperate for food. And the United Nations has said, well, we're not going to go in to Gaza if we're not protected, if the Israelis are unable to guarantee our safety and the safety of people that we're going to be providing food for. No, we're not going to provide a death trap
Yeah.
for
Well, and what they
our aid.
want, they want the stench of this starvation tactic to be rubbed off on UN agencies.
Yeah,
They will be held accountable for
okay,
it, which they do. It's like no one wants to accept the Palestinians because nobody likes them. No country wants to be involved in ethnic cleansing. Okay.
exactly.
And so the UN, George, I don't know if you saw it. It was a clip I saw on the BBC, authentic, interviewing a doctor that had been
Yeah, I saw that.
recently
Yeah.
about the
Yeah,
different days.
the deliberate targeting. That's right.
Well, you can say it better than I do. Just say it.
Yes, what he said, that he had found injuries on these children. I mean, they were teenagers or whatever, the children that showed a consistent pattern of targeting. So one day he would have the children all had injuries in their legs, and then next day they would all have injuries in their shoulders, and then another day they all had injuries in their testicles. They said that indicates, because of this consistent pattern, that this was deliberate targeting.
Target
Yeah,
practice.
yeah, target
Target.
practice, exactly, exactly. Well, I want to show, I mean, what I think is kind of interesting, and I know it's kind of gruesome, and this is very harsh for our audience, but I have to show the State Department spokeswoman. That's as brutal a torture as anything that devised by man. But let's take a look at this person. Her name is Tammy Bruce, and she is the official spokeswoman for the State Department. So she's the official voice of the United States. This is the voice that the rest of the world listens to. And let's see if I can find this. Right. No, right, let me. All right. Because it is quite startling. So. And here she is. And
the 20th of January till the 2nd of March, upward of 600 trucks were going in a day. There's no evidence of, any trucks were being stolen, and no evidence of violence around the aid and so on. Doesn't that speak well of the former system that was in place to get aid in?
Well, without knowing what you're referring to or having the data or who's reporting those numbers, that would be speculation on.
Speculation. He said something very specific. He said that the up from between January the 20th and March, the moment that Israel ended the ceasefire, food was coming in. There wasn't any problem. I don't know what you're talking about. He said very specifically what he was talking about.
My part, what we do know is that in the immediate aftermath of October 7th, the defense that Israel was applying regarding that dynamic, the efforts to get food in to Gaza, even recently, have failed miserably. We do know that everyone as they had stopped food delivery because of the dangers on the ground. That was the driving force. Was even for us before GHF was we want to get material into the region, but we want to be able to do it somewhat safely and without it being looted or taken by Hamas. And no one had ideas about how to make that happen. And the GHF plan achieves that. What comes after this, I can't also tell you. That's a different, and there will be a day when we're discussing the redevelopment of Gaza and new issues about the markets of Gaza and the peace of Gaza and who's running Gaza. Those will also be maybe from.
There's a famine going on, lady. What are
Yeah.
you talking about?
Right. Yeah. There's a famine.
What's
There
going on?
are people dying of hunger. These are the people who are saying this. This isn't Hamas who are saying people are dying of hunger. These are international humanitarian organizations that people are dying of hunger, and that can that can very quickly, escalate.
Well, and also everyone, there are other similar tragedies going on in the world. Ethiopia, we have Sudan with the ongoing conflict there. There's a difference there. There has been a mechanism in place
Right.
because Gaza has been under siege for so long. The United Nations, don't hold me to the numbers, had 400 distribution points for food. They had they knew how to get through the checkpoints. They actually probably knew the border guards. I mean, they had people on the ground that were working with. This was a well-oiled machine.
Right.
Okay, and what is Tammy Bruce talking about?
Yep. That's right.
I think we both look forward to those days.
Yeah, another quick question. Yesterday, the Chief of Staff of the Israeli Army, General Zamir, said that the current strategy, including storming the Balahut tanks and so on, and including apparently the starvation strategy, is aimed at forcing Hamas to release the hostages. And today, Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, said that they have a green light from the Trump administration to basically remove Gazans by force and create.
I need to stop you right there. Wait, we can't. I can't have a conspiracy theory, an accusation against President Trump about.
He's not. There's no conspiracy theory.
There's
This
no
guy.
good. Read the Israeli media. It's in English.
It's Smotrich. He now either he's you can say, well, Smotrich just speaks for Smotrich, even though he's a finance minister, so he's quite a senior figure in the government. But nonetheless, that's not a conspiracy theory. I'm just saying this is what Smotrich says, and she's got. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
When someone says that they've been allowed to do, Saeed, we can't have that, and that's not something that belongs in this room with everything at stake.
What belongs in this game? But what it's what's interesting when here is what's on.
State Department spokeswoman.
Let's look at her face. Look at her face. She's being interviewed here. This is very recently by I-24.
Before you play it, everybody, the clip that was just played, did you see her doing this? She's nervous when you do that.
Yes.
Look at her now. Look at her now. Look at the difference.
Yes, exactly. Look at this grin, this huge grin, this joy on her face. She is being interviewed by I-24, this Israeli propaganda media outlet. She's being interviewed, and she's so happy. She's so happy to be interviewed by this Israeli outlet.
Here, I got to ask you right off the bat. I've seen a media report that says that you're Jewish, and I looked through your social media history before you took over at the State Department, full of affinity for the Jewish people. You remind me a little bit of my grandma, just tough as nails. So it's of interest to our audience. Are you Jewish?
I am not, and sadly not. I am Italian, which I've always thought maybe the Italians were the lost tribe. So that could be the dynamic there. But it's so it's I'm honored. I don't mind people thinking that at all.
Can you imagine anybody saying,
Who says that?
I unfortunately I'm not Jewish.
Who says that? Who says that?
I just always the words fail me. Unfortunately, I am not Jewish. It's like, it's got just this is amazing.
I do recall, it's interesting, after the October 7th attacks, I went to a jeweler in the World Trade Center to get the Star of David to wear on the air. And he knows me, and he said,
Why would you want to wear a Star of David on the air?
You're not Jewish.
You're not Jewish.
but people will think you're Jewish. And I said, I hope so. And the point is that at a time like that,
But of course, it raises the obvious question is that, well, you're the spokesman for the State Department, and that means you represent the United States government. And here you're showing your complete, utter bias. You are so completely biased in your perspective. How
We
can you
should be
in any way be involved in any kind of ceasefire negotiations or in any kind of negotiations when you're so, you're more Jewish than the Jews, more Jewish
Yeah,
than Israel.
a couple days after the October events of October 7th, Tony Blinken showed up in Israel, and he said, I have come here as a Jew.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought you were Secretary of State
That's
of the
right.
United States.
That's right. And of course, he comes from a prominent Zionist family.
and certainly throughout history, is that we all have to be Jewish. We all have to be recognized as this is about humanity, about the nature also of the Jewish people and the Western civilization that we all enjoy that make
Yeah,
life
can you stop it, George?
Yeah.
What she's doing is damaging the Jewish faith community.
Yeah.
Because this is what these people do. They do far more damage.
Yeah.
What Israel is doing against the Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank is horrific. There are war crimes. But I'm not saying that's because they're Jewish.
Right.
It's because of Zionism. Okay, she's conflating it. She's part of the problem.
I agree. I agree. And then here's again,
the department's assessment that the current, I guess, policy towards the conflict is working in drawing it to a close? Because when you see 79 people killed waiting for aid, which is one of the highest numbers we've seen over the course of the 2 years,
It's absolutely horrible.
it feels like things are going in the wrong direction.
Well, what it shows us here is that the enemy, the barbarian framework that started this on October 7th,
so this reporter asked the question, 79 people were killed lining up for food. I mean, how can you justify anything like that? And she says, oh, well, Hamas, October the 7th. What has it got to do with 79 people killed who were doing nothing? I mean, this isn't Hamas. These are 79 people trying to get some food.
with the mass murder of Jews, the biggest mass murder of Jews since the Holocaust, they are going to be upset and strike back when there appears to be the end to the kind of conflict, this never-ending generational conflict that some of the worst people in the world, state sponsor of terrorism, Iran, and their death squads, have relied.
79 people just died, Tammy. Shot. They were shot, presumably.
Right.
Why are you talking about this?
Why exactly? These people are not Hamas. These are these are just people are lining up for food. How can you justify? The Israel is killing people who weren't even born on October the 7th. I mean, you're talking about infants who have been born over the last 18 or whatever months. So they're getting killed. They weren't even alive on October the 7th. And she's talking about the biggest mass murder of Jews since the Holocaust. Why are you talking like this?
Have relied on indecision, have relied on people not wanting to face hard decisions. So of course they're going to act and cause more terror and more.
So
it's hopeless. I mean, Kamala Harris looks like a genius in comparison.
Yes, yes. But I do think that it's going back to what I was saying at the beginning, is that you now have the world. This is the West. I mean, the most of the world had already have had it up, up to here with Israel. But we're talking about the West. The West, the only the only countries in the world that don't recognize a Palestinian state are all in the West. That's all the West. The rest of the world has already recognized a Palestinian state. But the West. But if even Macron says, I'm going to recognize a Palestinian state. If the pressure is now on Keir Starmer to recognize the Palestinian state, I mean, Germany is, of course, hopeless.
Hopeless.
Um, Israel is a starving a population. Who's in Israel's corner? This is in Israel's corner. What does this do to the reputation of the United States? I mean, I can't imagine anything that has been as damaging to the reputation of the United States as this.
What was
Essentially,
his name? What was Smirkula? What was his name? The former State Department official. I
some.
remember, I remember him by his nickname, Smirkula.
Oh,
That
is that?
Max.
I know who you mean. Is it Matt something? Wasn't it?
Yeah. You triggered me.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
at least his mumbo jumbo was a little bit more sophisticated. She
Right.
doesn't even know what she's talking about here.
No, 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 no. That's right. Um, and then I think it's somebody else here.
Acute
Oh, this is
malnutrition is rising. Hundreds of Palestinians have been killed in recent weeks while seeking food.
now. This is
Most in the vicinity of Gaza Humanitarian
Klobuchar.
Foundation.
yeah, exactly. This is
aid convoys.
That's right.
This is simply
This
unacceptable.
it's unacceptable. So
Yeah,
that's
but it wasn't acceptable to send all that money, Amy.
exactly.
I mean, again, this is one of these things. It's like, George, I just found out
That's
this
right.
morning. I just,
And
I just found out there's starvation going. This is like how they always act. No,
that's right.
this has been building towards it. We've been talking about this. On October 8th, there will be no electricity. There will be no food. There will be no water. Nothing will get into
Right.
Gaza.
Right.
Amy, did you hear that?
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And so this is this, again, going back to this statement. And now we strongly oppose any steps towards territorial or demographic change in the occupied Palestinian territories. And then as we urge the parties, blah blah blah. We reaffirm our complete support to the efforts of the U.S., Qatar, and Egypt to achieve this. This is the immediate, unconditional, permanent ceasefire. How is the U.S. doing anything to facilitate a ceasefire? I mean, admittedly, the statement was issued 3 days before the Americans announced that we're pulling out our negotiations from Doha. Um, but I mean, what efforts has the U.S. put in to secure a ceasefire? And then so you can see who signed this. Most of the Western countries signed this. Hungary is not there, with Orban, good friend of Israel. Hungary is not one of the signatories, but even Poland signed this. And
But George, it's nice. Isn't this nice?
yeah,
These are words. These are words.
that's right.
It's nothing more.
Yeah,
You know, Israel relies, it's a very small country. It's rather entrepreneurial. These are all markets for Israel's goods. There
yeah,
should be a boycott, a complete boycott
yeah,
of all Israeli goods, not from the settlements, but from make them feel your disgust.
yeah, yep. And I just wanted to show you because apropos of Amy Klobuchar, this is from Netanyahu's recent visit to the United States. He was in the United States a few days ago, and look at all the people eager to have themselves photographed with Bibi. And there's Amy Klobuchar. There she is. She's in that class photo. There she is. Go back.
That's
There she
okay.
is. Yeah, no, yeah, let's go back. So there she is, hiding a little bit. she's shy. She's shy, but she's smiling very
No,
sweetly.
that's not her reputation. I'm
That's
sorry.
right. There she is. And look who's also, is basically is to the right, two places to the right of Netanyahu, Chuck Schumer. You remember when there was all that talk about how Chuck Schumer, he's had it with Bibi.
With BB. I've had
He's
it with
gonna,
BB.
that's right. He's saying it's time for Bibi to go. And he spoke in the well of the Senate. Time for Bibi to go. And that didn't happen. And
I'm
now he is now
pretty
getting
sure.
photographed in the class
I
photo.
know why they're smiling. Yeah, because as soon as this photo op is done, they're going to go cash their APEC check.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Just look at
Ted, Tel Aviv Ted, how much have you gotten recently?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. He's in the foreground. He kind of
If
dominates the
he's a
photo.
big guy, he gets a big check.
He gets a
Okay.
bit, yeah. And then there's the Adam Schiff. You can see Adam Schiff
Ugh.
just behind Ted Cruz, and then there's a guy from Delaware. I can't remember his name. Was this senator from Delaware? The good friend of Joe
Oh,
Biden's.
Kuhn,
Coons.
right? Kuhn.
That's it. Coons. Chris Coons. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the intellectual second half of Joe Biden.
He always seems such a nondescript character. You kind of, yeah. But
Don't meet him on Amtrak. He's not nice to people.
that's right. Yes, exactly. Aaron Maté. He had Aaron Maté thrown off the train.
Yep.
That's doing it. I mean, is that you're a U.S. senator and you can get somebody thrown off a train? I mean, amazing.
Yeah, good. I didn't know that was one of the perks.
Exactly. One of the words you can just get him thrown off the train. Um, and then and there they are. Even Johnson, but I don't know why. But Mike Johnson isn't in the photograph. And then that guy from New Jersey, that
Oh
gas
God,
bag.
Spartacus, is he in there?
Yeah, he's there. Yeah, it's hard to see him. He's right.
I see him. I see
Yeah,
him.
there he is. Yeah, yeah. But there's Amy Klobuchar. She's in that photograph, and then she goes and makes this speech. Unacceptable! The famine. The famine. You knew
Well,
about the
George,
famine. You knew
but
all
see,
about it when you were in that photograph.
the way you started it out, their conversation on this is so appropriate because I'm not an expert on starvation and famine. There are different levels of it. I think there are five different benchmarks. But once it starts,
Yeah,
even if you flood food into an environment that is, experiencing that kind of shortage, once it starts, the impact will be long lasting,
right,
even if you start flooding. They're dropping, the UK is dropping food. Come on, you're insulting our
right,
intelligence. Everybody knows it's by land. That's the way
right.
you get to move a lot of
Right.
stuff very, very fast.
That's
You're
right.
going to just drop. So you get a photo op? Is that
That's
what you want?
that you're
I mean,
exactly
the reason why I bring this up, George, is that people like Amy Klobuchar, this is getting too close.
yes,
So
exactly.
I want to, I was on the record. I was on the
Exactly.
record.
And that's what they're afraid of,
That's what, yeah.
that this mass famine, because what happens, I mean, like you, I'm not an expert on this, but what people say is that, people suddenly have organ failures. And once they have the organ failure, it doesn't matter that they suddenly get food, that organs have failed. I mean, so they're just going to die. I mean, if your liver or your kidneys have gone, then they're gone. That's it. And so it doesn't matter now you've got food because you've lost your vital organs. And so that's what they're afraid of, is that suddenly there's going to be this mass starvation, and then it's going to be on them. That's why I think it's very interesting that what happened in the past few days, that there seems to be panic setting in the among the Western governments.
Why all of a sudden, everyone?
Right.
I mean, there are copious studies of how this happens and how to avoid it mostly, okay? And we've been staring at it straight in the face. These people have known what has been going on there. And the possibility of starvation was always there from day one.
Right.
And now it's happening, and you are panicking. What do you
Right.
think the people of Gaza feel? They're
Right.
not panicking.
That's
They're
right.
dying in very large numbers
That's right.
now.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. And then here I just wanted to show you Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who recently voted to send money to Israel for their Iron Dome project.
Because it's defensive.
Exactly, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, to her credit, she adopted an amendment to prevent any money going to Israel. And so Ocasio-Cortez voted against this Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment, and she is trying to so, hey, well, of course, I'm not going to join a fascist like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, but this fascist like Marjorie Taylor Greene actually said we shouldn't give anything to Israel. Israel doesn't deserve anything. You know, they live better than most Americans. And anyway, they've got nuclear weapons. They've got far more firepower than any of their neighbors. And but Ocasio Cortez apparently was happy to sign off on sending money to Israel. And so
Yeah, because
and then she does this real cutesiness. Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment does nothing to cut off offensive aid to Israel. Oh, I would have joined if only we were cutting off offensive aid to Israel. Nor
yeah,
and the
well,
flow of U.S. munitions being used in Gaza. No, it's cutting off. Imagine that it would cut off everything, cutting off for anything for the Iron Dome, which enables Israel to prevail against any adversaries. It
that's
enables
right.
them to do whatever they want to do.
If you give somebody a bulletproof vest, they're going to start attacking with a knife or more
Right.
because they feel protected. That's what it is. But Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, why is she doing this? Because she's on the verge of nudging Chuck Schumer out. She wants that Senate seat. She wants to pull an Obama, and then as soon as she attains that seat, she wants to run for president. Okay, this
Right.
is all this is.
Right.
She doesn't give a hoot about Marjorie Taylor Greene, doesn't give a hoot about Gaza, Israel, or anything else.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
I mean she is the quintessential poser. Okay, it's what
That's right.
she is.
That's right. No, it's just a matter of time before she runs for president. I mean, it's just, it depends on which, just a matter of which election cycle is she going to make a bid.
I think she's going to want the Senate seat to give her more
Yeah, I think she wants
stature.
the Senate seat exactly. Yeah. And then on to the presidency. What
And
it
it's
does,
interesting how she kind of latches on to Bernie. Okay. No, it's very interesting because she wants that
yeah,
so-called progressive. When
right,
even when Bernie sold out to progressives,
right.
she's clinging on to him. These
Yes.
people are not smart.
Yeah, that's right. And it says, what it does is cut off defensive Iron Dome capacities while allowing the actual bombs killing Palestinians to continue. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, whoa, whoa, so, no, I want to go on providing money to the Iron Dome. Yeah, well, I don't like what they're doing to the Palestinians, but Israel should be able to defend itself. And now I'm acting according to principle. Can you imagine, if she's planning to run for president, is she seriously going to present that as an argument? Is anyone going to, for one moment, believe and say, people are going to start burst out laughing? Oh, I only have a problem with using offensive weapons against Palestinians, but I think I'm ready to send money, American taxpayer money, so that Israel can defend itself. And then, and I have long stated that I do not believe that adding to the death count of innocent victims, also Israelis are innocent victims, death count of victims of this war is constructive to its end. I've long said that. No, they're innocent victims. That is simple and clear difference of opinion that has long been established. I remain focused on cutting the flow of U.S. munitions that are being used to perpetuate the genocide in Gaza. So they're perpetuating genocide in Gaza, but I'm sending them U.S. taxpayer money. How? Well, that's
Right. Well, I remain focused on. Well, what the hell is that supposed to mean, George?
right.
If an appropriations comes up, will you vote for it? Well, of course, but I'm focused on it. I mean, it's this is varsity team
You're right.
debating quality. I mean,
Right.
just
Right. No, yeah, that's right.
but I'll be focused on it. Don't
That's
worry.
right. But it's so typical of this kind of Democrat disingenuousness. I mean, it was it when John Kerry he voted to for the Iraq War, but then he said, "Well, I turned against it because George W. Bush didn't provide enough weaponry and didn't provide enough force for our soldiers in Iraq. So if only he had provided that." So then he kind of changed his vote and was against it. So I was for it before I was against it. So if only he had provided the U.S. Soldiers with more ammunition and more armor, then it would have been great. Then he would have supported it. Like Howard Dean, you remember in 2004 when Howard Dean ran as the anti-war candidate, but he said, "Well, I would be for it if we could get a UN Security Council resolution in support of the invasion. So as long as we can get a permission slip from the UN Security Council, I'd be for a completely unprovoked attack on Iraq." I mean, what kind of an idiotic
Well,
statement that, oh, I just, if it's the UN Security Council, then I'm on board. Yeah, I'm all for it.
just endless examples of why they went into politics because they're not very smart.
No, no, no. Um, and then she started getting very bitter because she got attacked for that tweet. So Google is free. If you're saying I voted for military funding, you are lying. It's not military funding. I sent money for the Iron Dome. It is not military funding. You are lying.
Yeah. Yeah, the Iron Dome is involved with production of ice cream, right?
That's right, exactly. Receipts attached. Drag me for my positions all you want, but lying about them doesn't make you part of the left.
Yeah, but Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, you're lying to yourself,
Yes.
okay?
You're lying to your voters. And then if you believe neo-Nazis are welcome and operate in good faith, I think she's referring to Marjorie Taylor Greene as a neo-Nazi and welcome and operating in good faith, you can have them. So this isn't going to work, just smearing Marjorie Taylor Greene, because at least Marjorie Taylor Greene, she wants to cut off all funding to Israel. That's a lot more principled than anything you have done.
There's nothing principled here.
Right. Well, if you believe neo-Nazis. And so this is now the Washington Post ran today with this food airdropped into Gaza, starvation, deaths rise. But even the Washington Post is more or less saying, these airdrops are a joke. I mean, they're not exactly a joke, but they're not going to address mass starvation. Because the logistics are just too difficult to get that much food in via airdrops. Israel has begun to airdrop food into Gaza, Israel said on Saturday, as deaths from starvation in the besieged enclave spread this week, and international criticism of Israel's restrictions on aid reached a crescendo. The Israel military said 7 pallets of flour, sugar, and canned goods, which appeared to be less than a truckload of food, was dropped Saturday night after a meeting led by Benjamin Netanyahu and senior aides. Israeli troops will pause fighting on Sunday to allow food distribution and assist UN agencies in their aid delivery effort. And Israel will also turn on electricity to Gaza's only functioning water desalination plant.
Real humanitarians there. Wow.
Well, that's a sort of, and that's interesting. I mean, it's always good that you tell us that you turned off the electricity to the Gaza's only functioning water desalination plant. Israel shut the plant in March, depriving Gaza of the ability to make its own potable water.
Does the New York Times realize an indictment it is making against itself?
Exactly. I mean, this is what's happening. That's what I mean. That there seems to be some kind of a turning point here. That this is even too much for the Washington Post. That's too much for the New York Times. This is that's why like with all these politicians, because this is something that you can't get around. These are starving and civilians. You can't keep talking about Hamas. People don't have drinkable water. Talking about Hamas, I mean, now this horrific woman, this monstrosity called Tammy Bruce, she's still talking about Hamas, but that just shows how out of step and the U.S. government is. It's just out of step completely with the whole world. Um, Still, Israel's moves amounted to a turnaround in its policy under intense international pressure and underscored the severe humanitarian crisis unfolding inside the Strip.
This is not a turnaround. This is political theater.
Right. Well, it's a PR. They have a PR.
Yeah, but I mean, this is not a turnaround.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's not a turnaround, but they needed to do something. But the amazing thing is, no pressure has been coming from the Trump administration. None. I mean, Trump on Friday, as before he flew to Scotland for a 4-day trip, said, "Yeah, well, the ceasefire talks broke down, and it's all Hamas's fault." That's after you've been telling us all this time that we're very close to a ceasefire. And then he turns around that neither Israel nor the United States had any interest at all in any kind of a ceasefire. They just wanted the hostages out. Well, that was never, you were never going to get a ceasefire on that basis. But Trump doesn't even bother to lie and say that they were interested in a ceasefire. Just say, oh, we just wanted the hostages out. And Hamas wasn't willing to play along with that. Well, no, that's a given.
When the history of this time is chronicled, there'll be a split screen. There'll be these horrific images coming out of Gaza and Donald Trump playing golf in Scotland. I swear to you,
Yeah.
this is how it's going to be remembered.
Right. Exactly. He goes on a private golfing trip. You're going on a golfing trip where there's this famine that's actually even caught the attention of the useless, good for nothing Europeans. Even they sort of are attempting to address this issue, and you're playing golf. And it says Netanyahu's government began to block food and medicine from entering Gaza in March on the grounds that the previous aid distribution mechanism led by the UN was benefiting Hamas, a claim that has been rejected by Western and UN officials.
Well, then if it was rejected, then why didn't you put pressure on the Israeli government to keep this United Nations operation in play? I mean, if you rejected it,
right. That's right.
Well, I'm not a genius here, but when I read this,
that's right. That's the amazing thing, and of course that has now been shown to be a lie. Let me just that the whole story that Hamas is stealing the food. What it says? Let me just show this. Here, let me go back. Here's a story from the New York Times, and it says, "What a surprise! What a shock! No proof Hamas routinely stole UN aid." And this is Israeli military officials say. This is Israeli military. So this woman, Tammy Bruce, she's spouting this Israeli propaganda, even as the Israeli military said, well, basically, we don't have any proof that Hamas is stealing food. And it says Israel has long restricted or completely blocked aid to Gaza on the argument that Hamas steals it to use as a weapon of control over the population. For nearly 2 years, Israel has accused Hamas of stealing aid provided by the United Nations and other international organizations. The government has used that claim as its main rationale for restricting food from entering Gaza, but the Israeli military never found proof that the Palestinian militant group had systematically stolen aid from the United Nations. And then this is according to 2 senior Israeli military officials. And then it says, in fact, the Israeli military officials said the UN aid delivery system, which Israel derided and undermined, was largely effective in providing food to Gaza's desperate and hungry population. None of this should come as a surprise. We all knew that UNRWA was actually doing its job properly. Instead, we had that lie that was put out that UNRWA people took part in the October the 7th attack. None of that was ever proven. There was never any evidence for that.
And even if it were true, George, I mean, I don't remember the number correctly. Everyone will forgive me, but we're looking at under its operations about 40,000 people,
Yeah.
and they were claiming that less than a dozen people may have had some kind of contact with the events of October 7th. Well, then you just deal with those people.
Right.
Okay, I mean, that's
Right.
problem solved.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. Um, and then exactly right. And then because otherwise you get the humanitarian crisis. You can't just punish 2 million people because of a handful. And then it says Israel moved in May toward replacing the UN-led aid system that had been in place for most of the 21-month Gaza war,
Stop.
opting.
Stop. Excuse me. Stop.
Mhm.
Israel moved and made toward replacing the UN-led aid system. No, it didn't replace it.
Yep.
Okay. And this new operation, it's a fraud. It's a complete fraud. Okay.
Right.
Again, the New York Times is so fundamentally dishonest. Okay.
Right. That's right. It says this American-run operation guarded by armed U.S. contractors in areas controlled by Israeli military forces. And then we have the new system has proved to be much deadlier for Palestinians trying
Oh,
to.
who would have thunk? Who would have?
Who would have thought? Oh, that's a problem. It turns out to be deadly.
So
Yeah.
providing aid to starving people, this formula is more deadly. I mean, I
That
thought you were trying to avoid death.
well, exactly proved to be much deadlier. Yeah, in other words, people instead of getting food, they get shot. Well, that is it's kind of yeah, it's not exactly an aid program. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, almost 1,100 people have been killed by gunfire on their way to get food handouts under the new system, in many cases by Israeli soldiers who opened fire on hungry crowds. Israeli officials have said they fired shots in the air in some instances because the crowds came too close or endangered their forces. But they said fired shots in the air. How did all these people get killed if you fired shots
Well,
in?
I don't know. Maybe I'm going out on a limb here. So forgive me if it sounds ludicrous. Well, create a barrier,
Yeah,
have the put all the food in a
right,
distribution area, and then you go back behind your fence, and then
right,
you open the front, and then you let them take care of it
right,
themselves. Okay.
right.
I don't know. Is that ludicrous
I
for
don't,
me to
I don't,
say?
I don't see. I mean, I don't see what the big problem is here. I mean, yeah, the crowds are hungry, but it seems like it's just a crowd. It's not beyond the realm of sort of human ingenuity to deal with a crowd, to be able to control a crowd. I mean, people have been doing
Without
that for
killing
time.
them, without
Without
killing them.
exactly without killing them. That's right. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do to keep a crowd under control. Why haven't they done that? Why haven't they sort of created some orderly system and provided some means so that there's people line up and whatever to get their
Yeah, I mean, like get a ticket, hit a button ticket.
yeah, all of that. Just
Wait for your
line
number.
up. I'm sure they're hungry, and I'm sure that they'll be happy to line up if they're going to get food. But of course, these things are open only for about an hour at most, and there's only about 3 or 4 of them throughout Gaza. So people have to walk quite a long way in the heat to reach these distribution centers. So they might indeed be late. And then even if they get something, then they have to walk back in the heat with a box of something. Not these are difficult things
And I wanted to point out earlier, the nutritional value of this aid is dubious at best.
right,
Okay.
right, yeah. And then the military officials who spoke to the New York Times said that the original UN aid operation was relatively reliable and less vulnerable to Hamas interference than the operations of many of the other groups. bringing aid into Gaza. That's largely because the United Nations managed its own supply chain and handled distribution directly inside Gaza.
Wow, wasn't that the work of genius? Wow, who would have thought? Who would have
That's right.
thought?
But now you see, Israel is attacking the United Nations because the United Nations said, we are not going to go in
No,
and take part in this mass murder. You haven't
no.
provided us with security. You haven't provided the recipients of this aid with security. Until you do that, we're not going to go in. So they're trying to essentially, I think you said that they're trying to get the UN to be complicit in this mass murder, and said we're not going to do it.
Yeah, because you see, the UN failed, UNRWA failed.
Exactly.
That's what they want.
Exactly. So we get Cindy McCain. Cindy McCain was saying we don't want to have anything to do with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And as I said, we're not going to do it. We're not going to take part in any kind of mass slaughter.
Who would have thought, George?
That's right.
It's early here, but is the McCain name being rehabilitated? This is a challenge here.
That's right. That's right.
Well, God bless her. Okay,
That's
keep
right.
doing it.
That's right. Yeah. Um, and then Hamas did steal from some of the smaller organizations that donated aid, as those groups were not always on the ground to oversee distribution. But they say there was no evidence that Hamas regularly stole from the UN, which provided the largest chunk of the aid. Now, Netanyahu has been claiming that they steal this food and then they sell it. They sell this food at a huge markup. That was the claim. Basically, no one's come up with any evidence for this, that they're stealing it and then they sell it at this huge markup.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
my counter argument to that is then if you're worried about Hamas stealing it and selling it at exorbitant prices, why don't you just flood the place with
Right.
food? Okay,
Right.
where no one is, there's so much food around us, no one's going to buy it from anybody.
Right.
Again, they don't think these things through.
Right. And then Israel used the rationale that Hamas steals aid when it cut off all food and other supplies in Gaza between March and May. And then in March, after a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel collapsed, it just collapsed.
A collapse.
It just collapsed.
It was an act of nature, George.
Exactly. Like your dog sometimes gets tired and it just sort of collapses out of tiredness. So Netanyahu said Hamas is currently taking control of all supplies and goods entering Gaza. And he declared that Israel would prevent anything from entering the territory. That blockade and problems with the new aid system that launched in May brought hunger and starvation into Gaza to the current crisis levels.
They make it sound like they're trying to explain. Did you know that if you stop supplying aid, that people might starve? Who knew?
Who'd have thunk? Yeah.
I mean, the distance that they try to put themselves, away from this horrific atrocity of the
Right.
21st century.
Right.
They're very antiseptic about it,
Right.
George.
That's
You know
right.
what, George? If you deprive people of food, they're going to starve. Did you know that?
Exactly. It's an interesting one. It's almost like one of these Newton's laws of motion. You got to formulate a law of cause and effect there. Eventually, when the military warned of looming hunger in Gaza in May, the government changed its position and allowed the UN and other organizations to distribute aid along with the GHF. And then since May the 19th, when Israel allowed emergency supplies to resume entering Gaza after the 2-month blockade, half of the aid has been distributed by the UN and the other half through the GHF. And then over the course of the war, the Israeli military released records and videos purporting to show how Hamas has been exploiting humanitarian aid. But no one has seen these videos. I mean,
Have you
it's
seen them?
amazing. Where are these videos?
I haven't.
Yeah, the army also shared what it described as internal Hamas documents found in the headquarters in Gaza, which discuss the percentage of aid taken by various Hamas wings and dated to early 2024. But these documents do not specifically refer to the theft of UN aid. And then Israel has accused the UN of failing to collect truckloads of aid, sitting idle near a border crossing. And the UN in turn says the Israeli military has not provided enough secure routes to send the trucks in. And
Okay, well, their excuses get weaker and weaker and weaker.
that's right.
Supply routes, UNRWA has established that for
Yeah,
what, 15,
yeah,
10 years.
that's right.
There's nothing to invent here.
Right. Yep. Yeah. No. Exactly. And then here, this is from Reuters, which says exclusive U.S. AID analysis found no evidence of massive Hamas theft of Gaza aid. So this is USAID. This is an agency of the U.S. government. Says we also don't have any evidence of Hamas theft. Tammy Bruce has that evidence. Tammy Bruce. I mean, she basically was provided with whatever Netanyahu tells her. Um, An internal U.S. government analysis found no evidence of systematic theft by Palestinian militant group Hamas of U.S.-funded humanitarian supplies, challenging the main rationale that Israel and the U.S. gave for backing a new armed private aid operation. The analysis, which has not previously been reported, was conducted by a bureau within the USAID and completed in late June. It examined 156 incidents of theft or loss of U.S.-funded supplies reported by U.S. aid partner organizations between October 2023 and May 2025. And then it found no reports alleging Hamas benefited from U.S.-funded supplies. And then according to a slide presentation of the findings seen by Reuters, the State Department spokesperson, maybe Tammy Bruce, disputed the findings, saying there's a video evidence of Hamas looting aid, but provided no such videos. The spokesperson also accused traditional humanitarian groups of covering up aid corruption. I guess because they're anti-Semitic. I mean, it's like, what's common to all these humanitarian organizations? I guess anti-Semitism. I mean, that's their defining characteristic. A White House spokesperson, Anna Kelly, questioned the existence of the analysis, saying no State Department officials had seen it and that it was likely produced by a deep state operative seeking to discredit President Donald Trump's humanitarian agenda.
Humanitarian agenda.
I love. Give me humanitarian agenda, please. And then the study was conducted by the Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance within USAID, and then which was the largest funder of assistance to Gaza before the Trump administration froze all U.S. foreign aid in January, terminating thousands of programs. It has also begun dismantling USAID. The analysis found that at least 44 of the 156 incidents where aid supplies were reported stolen or lost were either directly or indirectly due to Israeli military actions.
Isn't it fascinating? I don't know how many paragraphs were in that article, but look at this is at the very, very end,
Right.
isn't it, George?
Right. Exactly. So this is um, look, I don't know if we're at a turning point. I mean, we say these things, and then it turns out we're not we're in exactly the same
But
place that we
George,
were.
for me, it's testing tolerance of the Western world. How much further can we go until they start reacting? Okay, they don't care what the global South has to
Right.
say. That could
No,
care
they
less.
don't. They don't. They don't go.
Okay, but I mean, this is pushing the envelope. How much further can we go? And then how are we going to try to fix it? Oh, airdrops. Okay, we want to work with the UN. We want to, and this conversation go on for days, weeks, maybe. Well, maybe we'll have a finding in September.
Right.
I think they want to keep pushing it. They want to keep pushing it because, again, I want to be really honest with viewers. George and I are not experts on starvation. But there is a tipping point where, as George pointed out, you have organ failure, you have the inability to actually digest food.
Right.
There were cases of that when camps were liberated by the Red Army. You saw it in Band of Brothers, okay? But the Soviet forces had more experience with it because there were just so many more camps, and giving them loaves of bread killed them. because they were no longer able to digest food. Okay, so there's this tipping point that's going on, putting putting three truckloads with send in three truckloads of flour. That's nothing.
It's nothing. And but worst of all are these airdrops because apart from
They
anything
hit
else,
people.
they kill people. Exactly. I mean, you drop, a ton of something, boom, it falls on people, falls on a building, boom, it just kills all the people in the building. And this happened. I mean, they've done this airdrop. They did it last year, and it did kill people. Which well, who'd have thunk that it would actually kill people when you actually drop something heavy on some kind of a living settlement. So that's dangerous. Also, they're very imprecise. Some of those airdrops ended up in the sea. Some of them ended up in Israel. So it's nonsensical. But I do think the fact that Israel has suddenly made this abrupt, saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to create these, cessation of hostilities in a number of areas, just in order that the United Nations can deliver some food." Which, in other words, you could have done this a long time ago, but the fact that they're suddenly doing it now indicates that they've got a serious public relations problem on their hands, and they have to do some fancy juggling and hoping that everyone will forget within 2 weeks. 2 weeks time, everyone's going to be on to the next thing, and then we can go back to go back to the blockade. But at the moment, they do seem to be in there seems to be some panic taking place.
Yeah, well, their panic is in their quivering voices and their hand wringing, and we still believe in the two-state solution. It's not feeding anybody.
Right,
It's
right.
not feeding any. It's not saving any lives. All you're trying to do is save your own ass. Sorry, okay? That they're paving the way. Oh, well, I said I'm on the record. I said it in the well of the Senate. I said that this is a
Right.
sign of panic, real panic.
That's
And
right.
we've been anticipating this obviously in a negative way for a while now. It's here. It has
You're right.
begun.
That's right. Now, Macron's announcement that he's gonna announce at the General Assembly the recognition of a Palestinian state. Yeah, it's fairly empty. I mean, you're not actually going to do anything about it. I mean, it's not being accompanied by any measures that he's going to take against Israel, or he's going to launch any kind of a peace initiative or whatever. Nonetheless, that it has of some significance. I mean, France is a leading Western power. It is a permanent member of the UN Security Council, so it does break the Western Front. I mean, yeah, Russia and China, they long recognized a Palestinian state, but France would be the first major Western powers. I mean, so Spain has recognized it, Ireland has done so, Slovenia, whatever. I mean, no one cares about them. France would matter. If Britain were to join, I don't think Britain will join, but if Britain were to join France, that could be a problem for Israel. I mean, I think that then suddenly you've got a block of key Western powers who are recognizing a Palestinian state, and that kind of reinforces Israel's and America's isolation.
Absolutely. Um, I agree. I mean, Macron is grandstanding and all this. I mean, we have nothing good to say about this guy, but
Yeah,
it does it's a part of the changing the perception.
right,
Okay, I mean that's the best you can do. The best you can do is say we recognize a
right.
Palestinian state. Wow, I mean that's courage. Macron's going to come out and say I was against slavery too.
That's
Okay,
it. Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay. Yeah, it's important in the context of perception, but it just I don't know, George. It empties you out.
You're right.
It's draining. We're all watching it. We're all watching it happen. It's what I find interesting is even the BBC, which is a disgrace all by itself, but you saw that interview with that doctor. I mean,
Yes.
that that stops you. That's like, what did I just hear?
Yeah.
What?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah,
a doctor.
it's
That's it's not some just guy, some propagandist or whatever. That's a real doctor. That's a doctor who's actually attending to patients. You know that he's bringing life-saving skills to patients. So and he says this, and so the interviewers were kind of a bit stunned
Yeah,
when they listened
and
to
then
this.
the second interviewer did the Hasbro thing. Okay, she went in and well, also, I
Israel
mean,
says this. You know, Israel of course
but
denies
that
this.
yeah, but see that doctor. I mean, again, it's all about perception control. Um, he didn't look like he had a political axe to
No, I
grind.
don't. No, no, no,
He
no.
just said, I was there,
Right,
and we noticed that on Tuesday it was all shoulder shots. On Monday it was head shots. I
right,
mean,
right.
well, who would have thought
That,
that kind of, I mean, it's target practice, everyone. That's what he was describing.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, no, that's right. And you have to say though that the Trump administration seems not only tone deaf, but lacking any political skills, any survival skills. His own base is turning against this. I mean, they're really no longer able to
Yeah,
stop
yeah,
this.
but Twitter is flooded with what? Trump is negotiating the Thai-Cambodian.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, like, really?
yeah, yeah. Give me a
I
break.
mean, you've got what are you're pissing on my leg and telling me it's raining,
Right,
okay?
right. No, that's
Really?
but the point is that everyone can see, just as we can see, this is ridiculous. Steve Bannon is seriously he's going to go on the air and say, "Oh, Trump, the peacemaker, he's negotiating a peace between Thailand and Cambodia." Whoa, Trump, the peacemaker. Are you serious? Are you really think that anyone's going to buy into this kind of a nonsense when you were negotiating this a supposed ceasefire with Israel and Hamas? And then you walked away, and it was the Americans and the Israelis together walked away, and then you thought Thailand, yeah, who really is interested in this? No one even knows who and where Thailand is. What is Thailand? They'll say, is that anything to do with the Thai cuisine? You know, that's about all they know. People know about
Okay,
Thailand.
George, I've watched some of the international coverage of it. All war is tragic. Yeah, there's an exchange of fire. Okay, people are moving away from the borders. It's not going to change the course of humanity. Okay, and I think both sides will have it. They have an interest in winding it down. Obviously, okay. It's something that we see with the Indians and the Pakistani. You know, every once in a while they have to do it because they have to
Right.
do it. Okay,
That's right.
but they're not going to let that get out of control.
No,
I mean,
no, I mean, I agree with you, and I think your analogy of India and Pakistan is absolutely right. It's like going back to this Kashmir, and then you say, okay, so it all goes back to the 1948 United Nations plan for Kashmir, and they've been fighting over this United Nations plan of 1948. Since then, ever since then. Same thing here. Oh, they've had all this thing about this temple which Cambodia claimed, and it was awarded to Cambodia, but Thailand still keeps it. And every few decades, it flares up, but doesn't really get anywhere.
well, and to back up George's point, the conflict over Kashmir. I'll tell you what, everybody, it will never be resolved. So don't
No,
count on it.
no,
It will always be that way.
yeah,
And both India and Pakistan have used it as a political tool. They weaponize it, okay, for whatever reason, okay. That's not to estimate the loss of life here, but Donald Trump, you stop beclowning yourself.
right,
Just stop it,
right.
okay.
That's right. That's exactly it. Because United States is heavily involved with Israel and what's going on in Gaza. United States is not involved in this conflict between Thailand and Cambodia, just like it's not involved in India and Pakistan. I mean, this has nothing to do with the United States, but the United States is very much involved in Gaza, and that just walking away from that ceasefire that you kept saying that we're on the brink, we're very close. In a couple of days, we're going to
He
have it.
went to Michigan
Yeah,
and campaigned in front of American Arabs and said, "I will end this."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
I don't. I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm just done. I'm I'll
Yeah.
end on this, George. George and I, it's probably no secret, we traffic in hope. We traffic in hope. Okay? I think that's a good default
That's
position.
right. I think so. I think it was fair to give Trump a chance. And I think it was fair to say, okay, you've
Yeah,
promised.
considering who is the guy that was in the White House before.
Exactly. I said, okay, and also to give him some time. Okay, 24 hours. I said, okay, 24 hours, and then, no one takes that seriously. But now, not only you have 6 months, it's like you seem to be quite satisfied with the fact that you've got three conflicts, all of which are in a much worse condition than they were when you came into the office, and you had an opportunity to end at least two of them. Two of them, I think, was well within his power to end, and he hasn't done it. And then he goes off on this private golfing vacation. It's like at this time. So his numbers are tanking in the polls, and that's a serious problem for him because the economy is actually doing quite well. So if the economy is doing quite well and your numbers are tanking, that means you have serious problems on your hands.
You have political problems.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Because I mean, as a rule of thumb, if the economy is humming,
Yeah.
you can basically go out in
Yeah.
Washington, blow somebody's head off, and nobody's going to care. I'm
Exactly. That's
sorry, but it's true.
yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I
Exactly.
mean, Bill Clinton, if things were just going real swimmingly, no one would have cared about his personal failures. Okay, look, that's the way it is. And George is absolutely right. If you're in trouble when things are relatively good,
Yeah.
then you really have to reassess. It won't be a reassessment. I don't like his administration. I don't like the people around him. It puts people like ourselves into such a terrible situation because the adults in the room. Well, I hated the adults in the room
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
created this world.
Ugh.
Okay. And then, but we need these gray hairs and all that. I mean, we don't have anyone. There's nobody out there now.
No, there's not exactly. And I hate that term, the adults in the room, because they said, well, who are the adults in the room? And Anthony Blinken, he's an adult. It used to be like John McCain. Oh, he's an adult. John McCain. It's like when, oh, John McCain, he's a centrist. Was a centrist. He was always described as a centrist. Or his friend, his good friend, Joe Lieberman. Oh, he's also a centrist. These are the people who get called adults in the room. It's a total misnomer and gives a kind of credibility and gravitas to the most fanatical, irresponsible figures in Washington.
Exactly, exactly. No one's going to come and save you, folks. Okay, we had to. You have to start being get reality focused. Okay, George and I will always traffic in hope. It's a good point of departure. What's the worst that can happen? We're disappointed, but we are all the time.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, this has been a mega run for us today. All right, obviously keeping an eye on all of these stories here. This is the Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. We to be determined for the live stream. George will send out a message about tomorrow, but certainly George will be in the saddle on Tuesday.
Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So please join me. Maybe tomorrow, we don't yet know. And then think about the dogs, because the dogs say, look, I mean, we're doing this, we're the adults in the room. We've been doing all this work unrewarded, unappreciated. And we need things into that tip jar. We need that tip jar to be moving. Otherwise, we might not be around forever. So, these threats from the dogs are sometimes a little menacing. So please, if you have anything at all to donate, anything, lying around in your wallet, in your bank account, behind the sofa, put it straight into the tip jar. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology. And above all, we'll just calm these dogs down. It's hard work. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.